Romance predators don't rely on look. They rely on psychology. They don't look like criminals. They look like chemistry. They look like finally. They look like safety. They look like love. And by the time most people realize they're in a romance scam or a manipulative relationship, the emotional bond is already formed, and that's the design. Because the most effective romance predators and romance scammers don't start by asking for money. They don't start with threats. They don't start with obvious lies. They start by creating attachment fast. They create emotional urgency so your logic can't keep up. They introduce instability, so you seek reassurance. They introduce secrecy, so no one can reality check it. They introduce pressure, so you commit before you verify. And only after you've bonded do they extract what they came for: attention, control, money, access, sex, status, identity, or all of it. Today, we're breaking down the full psychological profile of a romance predator. 15 red flags that reveal manipulation before it escalates into emotional exploitation, financial fraud, or coercive control. And I want you to listen for one distinction the entire time. Healthy relationships feel steady, transparent, and grounding. Predatory ones feel urgent, confusing, destabilizing, or quietly pressurized. I'm Laurel House, relationship and behavioral dynamics expert.
And I am Dr. Alex Carmen, criminologist.
And this is RomConned.
Let's break it down.
First is acceleration and attachment. Number one, intensity that arrives before trust. The first red flag is intensity that shows up before trust has had time to form. It feels like we just click. This is so rare. I've never felt this way before. You're different. You're the one. And it often happens in the first week. Intensity feels intoxicating because it mimics compatibility, but compatibility is revealed through consistency over time, not emotional speed.
From a criminological perspective, speed is the strategy, right? So predators, what they do is they often compress time because time exposes consistency. The faster that they move in a relationship, the less opportunity you have to verify their identity, to verify their background, and even look at behavioral patterns or contradiction. And so for them, speed is of the essence. They don't want things to slow down. They want things to go incredibly fast.
And this is something that you as a criminologist can probably even see in people, right? Of how they're trying to make things up, speed things along, make you forget about thinking through things, push you off your guard so that you are in their trap.
There's nothing more romantic, as you would tell your audience, right? That about the fact that things are happening very fast. I mean, who doesn't want to fall in love immediately? Who doesn't want to have that lightning type of relationship, right? So but what these predators will do is they will use that fantasy that oftentimes people have about meeting the right person very quickly and just knowing you're the one. They use that to their advantage because they don't want you to reflect. They don't want you to meditate, think about all these things that have happened so fast, and perhaps even notice inconsistency. They don't want you to do that. They want you to basically be caught in the moment, to be completely clouded by essentially being on cloud nine, thinking that you met your absolute match. And they're going to try to speed things to their advantage so that things are not slowed down. They don't have time to really get figured out.
Exactly. And that intensity creates a momentum. And momentum, as you're saying, reduces evaluation. When the emotional pace is fast, the feeling becomes evidence. You stop observing and you start believing. Whereas healthy relationships build. Predatory relationships accelerate. If the intensity feels like it's pushing you forward rather than unfolding naturally, pause. That pressure is information. Number two, love bombing disguised as romance. Love bombing isn't just compliments. It's constant messaging, excessive admiration, rapid escalation of affection, grand future promises, emotional language that feels cinematic, like, good morning, beautiful. Good night, my love. I've never connected like I have with you. All I've ever wanted is someone like you. Now, that being said, some people are just overly romantic and say those kinds of things, but they're not going to say them early on before they actually feel it, unless they're trying to make you feel something. And it can feel flattering. It can feel healing. It can feel like this long awaited validation.
In a coercive control dynamics, love bombing actually functions as grooming. So think of it as establishing emotional dependency early, which increases compliance later, right? So for instance, if I own compliment, I will also have ownership over how I make you feel. If I make you feel happy, if I make you feel good, then certainly I have the power now to make you feel bad and to make you feel sad. And so it's not necessarily about the actual compliment, which is what people really focus on, right? Oh my God, he used a great word, or he said this, that I'm so special, that I'm he's unique, that I am the only one. Then what these individuals will do is, by throwing all these compliments your way, and you being just completely, flattered by listening to them. And oftentimes the victims have never heard such compliments so rapidly and of the magnitude that they're being said, right? Because they're very skillful in words. And so what happens here is that if I can get used to you feeling good every time that I open my mouth and say something to you, then guess what? I have the power to make you feel horrible because I also own those emotions.
And then if you're ever not so nice, you have the person waiting for you to be so nice again, because as you said, maybe they haven't heard those words, those compliments in a long time, or maybe they never have. There are people who have, and maybe some of you who are listening, who have never been told, I love you, who have never been told, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, I'm lucky to be with you. So when you find someone who's saying those things to you, you feel special, and you've always wanted this. So when that's taken away, you're waiting for it to come back. And here's the neuroscience of it. Intermittent attention withdrawal after love bombing activates the same reward circuitry involved in gambling addiction. The brain becomes attached not just to the person, but to the dopamine cycle. Attention is not intimacy. If attention feels overwhelming rather than organic, it's not actually depth. It's leverage.
That's right. And also think about the fact that oftentimes people, when they hear these words for the first time, they're both enamored with the person that created them and voiced them, but they're also enamored with the word.
Yep.
And so that's why these professional con artists, and in our case, those that actually use romance as a tool, are individuals that are incredibly skillful in using very articulate words, the way that they say those words, the intentionality, the choosing of those words, very, very carefully done, because they know exactly what they're getting.
And it's also that more than the words, it's the feeling that they're giving you. You are enamored by the feeling, how you feel so loved, you feel so cared for, you feel so special. Interestingly, when you break up with someone, oftentimes it's not actually the person who you miss. It's the feelings that that person gave to you that you miss. So that's something to be aware of. Number 3, fast emotional fusion. This is different from love bombing. Fast emotional fusion is identity merging. They mirror your values, your faith, your trauma, your childhood wounds, your long-term goals, your political stance, your fears. You hear yourself in them. And it feels like, my gosh, you finally see me. And what we've talked about in the past, the 4 absolute needs in a relationship are to feel safe, sexy, seen, and special. So this fast emotional fusion is very much going to make you feel seen.
In the world of behavioral analysis, we call it the rapid rapport, because it is a technique that is used in fraud and interrogation environments to lower the defenses very quickly.
Healthy compatibility, however, is discovered gradually. Predatory compatibility is declared immediately. And that's something that's important. It's not discovered, it is declared, right? So you are told My gosh, we are so compatible. You are told we have so much in common. You are told how to feel and what to believe. And then because they're pushing you so quickly, you don't have the time to assess and say, wait, do we actually have all of this in common? Or are they just mirroring exactly what I say? Or are they not sharing much about themselves? They're only having me talk all the time and then saying that we have all of this in common when really they're not revealing anything at all. When someone claims profound alignment before they've earned contextual knowledge about you, that's calibration, not connection. Number 4, fast-tracked commitment. Exclusivity too early, moving in discussions, marriage talks in weeks, shared financial plans prematurely, public declarations before private verification. It's framed as certainty. When you know, you know. I don't want to waste our time. I've waited my whole life for this.
Urgency eliminates scrutiny. What we do is we see that it locks in emotional and logistical access before verification occurs. And oftentimes what we see that once again, speed is of the essence. They want to move quickly. They want to keep you on your toes. They want to keep you guessing what is next. And they want to lock you in emotionally and logistically because it ensures that they control tempo of that relationship.
Urgency is a control tactic when it removes your ability to evaluate. Healthy partners respect pacing. They respect what makes you feel safe. They check in. They'll make sure that you guys are on the same page, not that they're dictating the page that you're going to be on. Whereas predators pressure it. Control through psychology. Number 5 is manufactured vulnerability. They disclose trauma early: abandonment, betrayal, abuse, financial ruin, illness, loss. It triggers empathy. It creates, therefore, bonding. But disclosure without time is not vulnerability. It's positioning.
And control disclosures, what they do is it allows them to assess your empathy response. If you rescue, excuse, or over accommodate, they now understand your psychological entry point. It's almost as if they're actually measuring the dimensions of your allowance. What will you allow them to do? And to what extent can they push and push and push to control it?
True vulnerability, though, unfolds gradually and reciprocally. Manufactured vulnerability accelerates attachment artificially. Number 6 is intermittent reinforcement. They're hot, then they're cold. Hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. Like it's this snapback, questioning. It makes you feel crazy. They're available, then distant. They're affectionate, then withdrawn. Your nervous system becomes preoccupied. You start asking, what did I do wrong? How do I fix this? How do I get them back? Is there something wrong with me? I don't understand. And that's their control.
And unpredictability increases that fixation. It is one of the strongest behavioral conditioning mechanisms known.
Roller coasters, however, as much as some people find them to be exciting, they are actually not romantic. They are regulation manipulation. Healthy love is predictable enough to feel safe. That being said, we've also discussed AI bots and how they might try to manipulate you being so consistent that there is no room for humanity. They're constantly perfectly on, constantly perfectly making you feel good and like the whole world is rainbows and butterflies without any human experience. Now that's different. What you don't want is the intense roller coaster. Number 7, guilt, shame, and emotional debt. When you ask for clarity, they get offended. Wow, I can't believe you'd think that. After everything I've shared, you're just like everyone else. I thought you trusted me. And now what happens? Well, now they made you feel bad because they've already tested how empathetic that you are. They know that they can emotionally control you. So now you're apologizing to them for offending them.
That's behavioral consequence training. And one of the things that we see, Laurel, is that they questions are oftentimes associated with punishment. The idea is the more that you question, the more that you pause, the more that you want things to slow down, the more that you should be, so what's wrong with you? Why are you leaving this fantasy? You think I'm like everybody else. And so that guilt trip that they're putting on you is something that they're making you feel guilty so that they negate the circumstances that in the future you would question them.
And then you're going to start cycling in your own mind as well. They're forcing you to obsess. And then in your mind, it's what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? So instead of thinking, who are they actually? What are they doing wrong? Is this for real? You're thinking, what did I do wrong? How can I fix it? It's a great magic way to make you not notice the truth in front of your face. From they're doing something wrong to what might I be doing wrong because they're having a reaction, so I must be the cause of that reaction. In healthy relationships, however, questions create clarity. In predatory ones, questions create emotional penalty, as Dr. Alex was saying. Number 8, identity mirroring. They don't just match your hobbies. They match your identity, your faith, politics, parenting philosophy, trauma history, career, ambition. It feels almost miraculous. It feels meant to be.
And in this pawn behavior, we criminologists can tell you we see this persona adaptation very, very common, right? The identity actually shifts depending on the target's value. And so it's almost like, the person changes, based on who you are today and who you could be tomorrow. So they blend in really, really well. They don't want to stand out. They don't want to take the position that is contrary to yours. They want this to be easy. So guess what? If you're a Christian and you believe you have values, they are too. But they have never been really a practicing Christian. They just love the values that brings. And of course, they would love to go to church with you. If you're not Christian, then of course they've been atheists all their life. And you have every right to question all these things. And so what they're doing is they're not confronting you. They're going by very, very fast because speed is in their nature. And they're also trying to emotionally manipulate you by letting you believe that you have found your mirror and you have found somebody identical.
And they might feel to you like they're just going with the flow, right? It feels so easy. They're going with the flow. They're easygoing. Yeah, they're not opposed to my politics or my religion. In fact, they're open to it. How wonderful, when really they're the ultimate chameleon. And this is where asking about their past, and then not just asking about it, but looking for consistency in their stories about their past, seeing if they have been a chameleon throughout every relationship, talking with people who are close with them, friends, family who might know who they are, where they've been, and what their beliefs and values have been in the past, and looking for consistency within those stories. Consistency across contexts signals integrity. Adaptive perfection signals performance. Now, reality distortion. Number 9 is isolation disguised as devotion. They're jealous. They don't understand us. Let's just keep this private and to ourselves. They wish they had what we had. Well, that's what your person, your scammer, is saying about all of your friends and family who are concerned about you. Anyone who is speaking up and trying to bring their fraud to your attention. And this gradually is going to start to shrink your circle, because who are you trusting now? The person who tells you that you're the love of their life and it's you two against the world forever, or the other people who are going to fall off anyway because they're not your real friends?
And isolation removes that external correction mechanism, right? So in other words, if you keep your friends away, if you keep the external evaluators of the relationship away from you two, it actually strengthens the narrative control they're engaging in. And so for them, they want to keep this quiet. They want to keep this to them. Plus, the last thing you need is to be exposed, right, as a con artist. You don't want other people to pick up on things. You don't want her friends to know, or his friends to know who you really are. And the last thing that you need is for them to say, oh, by the way, I saw this on social media a few months ago where you posted something about this or the other. Now, all of a sudden, you've changed your mind. So who are you really? That
Right.
chameleon discovery is also an area of vulnerability for them. So they want to keep it private under the illusion, as you said, this is just between us. We don't need the world. All those people that you see socializing, all they're trying to do is because they're just so miserable at home that they have to go out and find that happiness somewhere else. For us, we're fine here because we have found each other.
Yep. And that feeds into number 10, a life that doesn't fully add up. They have a vague job, a shifting schedule. They avoid video calls, inconsistent details, stories that slightly change every time. Confusion is not mystery, it is often concealment.
And the legitimate lives that some of us live, right, become clearer over time. But the fabricated life, the other hand, they require that constant revision, that constant editing. It's almost like the story that you're writing that never seems to have an ending because you're constantly changing it based on whatever mood you're in.
And one of the things that I remember you saying, Dr. Alex, is that when you are talking with a criminal and you're seeing that there is inconsistency in their stories, people have a hard time remembering lies. If you stick with the truth, you'll remember the truth. But your lies, your brain does not believe. And so it's not going to give you the details every time. And that's why it's constantly shifting.
Right. And so all the details, for instance, that the truth would bring. And we could paraphrase a story. Like over time, you may forget some things that happened during your story. You may in some ways adjust it, right? That's where older people oftentimes tell stories that are slightly different with that when they were younger and they could tell stories differently. But for the most part, the truth, 80% of it will stick to the truth because you're not fabricating. Whereas if you're lying, you're constantly adding, subtracting, you're forgetting things. And if you're a professional liar, as some of these people are, then you've lied about everything, your name, where you live, your background. You fabricated so many things before that person that at some point things get really confusing. It's a lot easier to catch a liar than it is to catch a thief.
Number 11, secrecy framed as safety. Privacy protects boundaries. Secrecy protects deception. If details remain inaccessible without reasonable explanation, verification is being blocked intentionally. Number 12, deflection when asked for clarity. They pivot, joke, attack, accuse, redirect. Answers disappear, but emotion escalates. All of a sudden, they're angry for you asking a question. They're upset that you would want clarification. They don't understand. You're trying to manipulate them when you want to understand them because you know what? They don't want to be understood by you.
And that deflection maintains that cognitive dominance, right? And it also prevents fact check. So when you're constantly being deflected, and when somebody's controlling you and they're controlling your emotions and the tempo of your emotion, you're likely not going to have the time, serenity, and focus to be able to do any kind of fact checking as you should have done some time ago.
Now the extraction phase, 13, the crisis, urgent, emotional, private, medical emergency, travel issue, frozen accounts, legal trouble, business setbacks. You are positioned as the only one who can help them. You can save them. And wouldn't that feel good for you to be able to save the person who you care about so much, who's your one and only, who you've been waiting for your whole life, and now you're the one who can save them from all of this difficulty that is assaulting them?
Well, and then the crises are often used to trigger immediate compliance, right? Before that rational evaluation kicks in. And so some of these individuals, they thrive on being victims. They thrive on being able to be seen by you as a victim so that you can rescue them. And look, there are many people out there of both genders, men and women, that they are into the absolute 100% lifestyle of rescuing threat all the time.
Yeah.
They seem to be like the 911's a threat, right? My friend so-and-so is depressed. I'm going to head over there, see what I can do to help her. And my other friend just got a divorce. And so I'm going to go see if I can get. So they seem to be almost like clinical psychologists that are working the field every day. And so when they get into a relationship and in that relationship, that other person poses as a victim and begins to say, all of these things happened to me and I need your help. I mean, who doesn't want to be told that, right? Who doesn't want to come out to rescue that person, especially if you think this is the absolute love of your life?
Yeah. And here's the thing, in those moments when we need rescuing, there's urgency, right? We don't have time to think about it. We don't have time to process. We might be going to help and there's something saying, something just feels off, but we're not allowing that thought to really take hold because what is urgent in that moment is helping them. It's not, maybe something is off here. And that's what these scammers depend on, is this fast movement so that you don't have time to actually think clearly. And then eventually, they don't want you to think clearly at all, ever. They want you to be fuzzy. They want you to be basically under their spell so that they can control you and get exactly what they want from you. For 14, financial or identity entanglement. Can you hold funds? Can you open an account? Can you verify something for me? Can you receive a package for me? It might seem, benign. Can you just receive a package? Can I have your mailing address because I need a place to send something that's local, or a messenger is going to deliver something? And then you give your address, and then you send some money, and then you receive some money, and then these little teeny things that it's just one more that is removing you from your reality and your comfort zone. It's just so slow that you don't even notice until you look back and realize how far you are away from what makes you feel safe. And this is operational escalation.
Once that identity is involved, legal and financial risks, they expand dramatically, right? I mean, so look, if you start sharing with me your social security number, because I made up a story that I need the last 4 digits in order for a package that's coming in from Spain that needs to be delivered at your home. If you start giving me money because we're sharing the same account, the more that this individual RomConned artist is making things seem legally as if you're one, the more advantage that he or she is taking over your life. Because at that point, not only is there a romantic component, there's also now a financial transaction. And this is where they are looking for the key that opens up that safe, where they want to know how much money you have. They want to know where your money is hidden, what bank accounts you have, what your stock market stocks look like, what your retirement looks like. And you and I have seen this before, Laurel, sadly, in some of the guests that we've had in our show, where people just basically, they say, oh, but I shared, my bank account with them, and I gave them the authority to make withdrawal. And then they're in shock when that withdrawal comes in for the entire amount. And then loan is being asked, against the account.
Yeah. Or when they find out that you have great credit. These are real things that happen to real people who are highly intelligent, just like you. Number 15, you override your intuition. This is the most universal red flag. Something feels slightly misaligned, but you rationalize it. I must be overthinking. I don't want to ruin this. It's so good. I need to stop being so negative. They've been through a lot, so I can't blame them if they screw up on occasion.
And that intuition is subconscious pattern recognition, right? So, when we were made, we were made to have a subconscious that is always working. They tell us criminologists that you walk into a room, especially a room that's familiar to you. Say you go to church on Sunday, or you go to the YMCA on Friday afternoons. You go to the gym every other day. As soon as you show up, your brain activates. And there are things that your brain is being exposed to, millions of data bits per second. And most of those are being registered, stored, but they're not being processed because you don't have to process it. So your brain is constantly setting aside all of these details that is constantly registering because it doesn't need them, right? So imagine if we were susceptible to just registering every detail that we got a chance to see every day, right? And so your brain is dismissing it, but except for when it recognizes something that's out of place. And then at that point, there's that feeling of, man, I had this intuition that so-and-so was going to do or whatever. So it detects the inconsistencies before logic organizes them. It's a fascinating concept, but one that we should rely on more often than not.
Yeah. Instead of just dismissing it as nerves or fear or insecurity, it's looking at it and saying, wait, is it really insecurity? Is it really fear? Is it really just, or is it that this is my intuition communicating with me because I am not thinking clearly enough? Predators succeed when you negotiate with your protective instinct that, as Dr. Alex said, is something that we are born with, that is part of who we are in order to protect ourselves. Romance predators succeed, not because people are naive, but because these tactics are psychologically sophisticated. They don't look dangerous. They look desirable. They look safe. They look and they feel like love.
And I want our audience to remember the most effective cons that we have seen throughout history are those that are built on trust and speed. And so remember that tempo is very important to them. And the idea that you're going to trust them very quickly is also important to them because they don't have time to spend the rest of their lives with you. They want to go to other victims. So they want to make this into a passing, almost like a drive right approach. I mean, they want to make this very quick, do the most amount of damage, and go on to their next victim. And so be aware, be situationally concerned, and always trust your instinct.
Yeah. Healthy love feels steady. It welcomes clarity. It doesn't rush. It doesn't isolate. It doesn't punish. It doesn't destabilize your nervous system. Awareness is protection. If this episode helped you understand the psychology of romance scams, manipulation, or coercive control, subscribe and share it because the next person targeted by a romance predator might be someone who you love or your future self. I'm Laurel House.
And I'm Dr. Alex Del Carmen, and I'm going to ask you to subscribe as well. And I'm going to petition that those of you that are not even concerned that you have been necessarily, scammed by other people, be situationally aware that your friends may have. And we need to get the word out. This show is not about Laurel or about me. It's about the cause that we represent. It's about making sure that we inform and educate a public out there that oftentimes doesn't hear it. We are the voices of those victims that are out there saying that. So if you subscribe to us, it's going to increase the awareness that others are going to have in order to do that. So as a social service, more so than as a point of interest.
And if you fear that a friend or family member might be in a situation, even if it's just a friendship situation, where they are being RomConned, then allow them to see this episode. They might notice that some of the red flags that we brought up feel familiar. So share it and see if they can start to realize it for themselves and extract themselves and maybe open the conversation because you might be saving their heart, their bank account, maybe even their life. This is RomConned, where we decode the criminal mind so you can recognize deception before it escalates. All right.
You're so good.
Yay. That was great.